Okay, as for today demo, I'm using two machines. One is kalilinux and two is Ubuntu. For kalilinux, I'm using the version Linux 2.6, and the Ubuntu one is just, I believe it's just the Ubuntu 64-bit. That's it. Let's generate an SSH key. So I have the line here. The type if is RSA. RSA is one of the digital signature algorithms out of three. We have RSA, DSA, and ECDSA. For this demo, I'm using the RSA type. The number of bytes is 4096 bytes, so that's around 4 megabytes, and the connection, the public key name is this one. So if we press enter, this is the target folder. Yes, overwrite, because I have one existing already, so let's just overwrite it. Passphrase, no passphrase, enter, skip to the next phrase, and we have generated a random art image, right? Now let's copy this random art image to our first to our local host. SSH copy ID to the test username of our local host. Insert password. Sorry. Right. And number two, we need to copy the SSH to the Ubuntu machine. So I have one installed already, but I need to copy the one that we just generate to install the new key. So put the password of that machine. Number of keys added is 1. All right. Now let's double check on the Ubuntu machine. So the authorized keys will be located under root folder of SSH, authorized keys. Let's see if this works. Okay, so as you can see, we have we have the public SSH keys with the these are from the target. This is where it's exported from, zilwin.csis3560.com. So as a matter of clear the terminal, let's try to SSH to the Ubuntu machine. SSH pass user Ubuntu. If they don't ask me the password, that means the SSH copy is success. There you go. I'm in the machine. Yes, user. Right. So we are now ready to write the menu function for server monitoring application. Okay. Initially, we need to create a menu file here. Let's go to, let's see, I need to be at the main folder. Right, I'm in the main folder. Let's create a file called, let's call it menu monitor. Right. Let's work on permission. Now let's work on it. Menu monitor. Here's the title. Don't forget to put the magic keyword bash. Right. So first we need to create a function called menu. Right. This is where we will automate stuff. So I need to echo and escape. Since we are dealing with multiple lines, I always prefer to use this technique to write a bunch of strings inside an echo. So welcome to menu application, whatever you call it. Well, let's say welcome to my, let's call this server monitoring application. Right, that's more appropriate name. Let's create 2 times new line. Here, we need to create the menu options. Please select one. And let's close the case. Outside the global scope, we put a menu, right? So that we always referring back to the menu in the global scope. Now we have already create a server list inside the case of a menu function. We need to create an actual function called server list. Function server list. So the purpose of this function is to basically read the txt file and displaying all of the lines inside of that txt file, right? What I would do first is by creating a variable called serverless, and need to specify where we put the txt file. So in my case, I put that under configuration folder, and the file name is servers.txt. Now we have that specify the data type inside the txt are consisting of different lines, multiple lines to be exact. So we need to insert them into an array type. So we need to read them as an array. Read array type is, we need to store them into a variable called servers. So from the server list as a target file. And let's echo escape. Let's create a typo. The opening line first. Here are the list of servers. Okay, now we run the for loop for each server inside. So each server inside these servers files, as since it's an array data type, so we need to specify this type for the Linux. So this is how we call an array type inside in bash scripting. Okay, now we do go. So tab. So specify the server name here, and done. And you return the value whenever it's being called. So you return it. Okay. So what we have here is you read an array type from the txt file, and you run a for loop, so it will cover each line per line, and it will specify it here. You tap and then the server name, okay, and you call it under the menu. So once we have that already, let's save the file, move on to the other split screen. Let's double check. Okay. We have it here. Please select display list of servers. Select the number 1. Here we go. Here are the list of servers. So this is what's inside of the txt file. We got three servers: localhost, Ubuntu, and the bat server 1. And it's after it's displaying the list of servers, it's returning back to the main menu, right? So I made a little changes here. If we switch back to the menu functions, I add let's add an exit or quit in here. So add one more line. Let's call it number 4, quit, and you add this is where you capture the user inputs, and we need to adjust the case of a reply by adding options 4 here. So 4 is equals escape. Let's create a new line and a tab space in between. Let's call it thank you for using our application. Right, and you exit. So this is how you exit the menu. You just add exit at the end of the command. Pressing number 4. Okay, let's run it one more time. So 1 is displaying a list of servers. There you go. 4. So let's say we are just typing some random stuff here. Say type a string. So invalid entry this number, which is 1 to 4. So that works properly. So if you want to quit, press number 4. There you go. That's a message. Thank you for using our application. Right, now that we have that in place, let's continue with function number 2, which is displaying number of user from each machine. Disk space, or yeah, let's call it space of the disk.inc. Okay. Don't forget the permission. Right. As per usual, put the magic keyword here. Okay. Now, to keep things easy to read and to track what it's all about, let's call it this function is to see disk space used of the root folder of each machine. And once we have it stored inside the servers, that's right, and put into the global scope. So we write a function now, call it as root disk info. Right, let's write the introduction. New line. So here are the disk space info for the following server list. And let's run a for loop for the servers. So for server in array of servers, so it's you telling the script that it is a server, it's an array type. I'm sorry. Let's write a command. So this is where we are opening an SSH connection to other server machine. Let's use a backtick as we try to put a command here. SSH test user from each of the server, right? And the command to check on the disk usage is du. And I would like to have it in the human readable format, which is sh. And dump any error into the def null. As a matter of fact, let's test it out. Test the command here. SSH test user. Let's test from localhost, right? And what was it again? Disk usage, SSH, right? C. Now, as you can see, it prints the disk usage 13 gigs, but there is an extra special characters here, backspace. So we would like to remove that. Let's pipe it to. I love to use awk, so let's awk format of. So the separator is a blank space, and I like to have only the first column, so $1. So it will be this one only, the first print first column only. So let's enter. Yeah, let me double check on that. What the other one? Space. Oh, probably there's a space in between. Let's clear this. Yeah, let's do it one more time. Oh, it's reading. Oh, there you go. Prints only the first column. That's exactly what we would like to have. Okay, let's replicate that to the function here. Pipe it. Call it awk. Separator of blank space, and print the first column only, right? That's pretty good. And now we have the command put into variable called space. Let's add that to we echo it. New line, new tab. So the disk space used in the root folder of server name, don't forget, is, let's call the space, let's call the command, which is this one, right? Space. So the result of a disk usage will be varied depending on each server that we specify from the for loop, right? As a closure of that function, we call it echo, let's close the for loop of do, done, and return the value, right? Now let's come back to our menu file. Let's go back to the menu monitor file. So in here, let's call the source again inside inc folder, and the file name is disk_info.inc, disk_info.inc. And for the following, we need to add them to the menu as option number 2, display disk usage of each server. And under the case of user input, so we need to write function. We need to call functions. In this section, the function called root disk info. So you specify here under number 2, root disk info, and go back to the menu. Once it's executed, we'll go back to the menu, creating an infinite for loop, right? Unless it's specify it to exit, then it's exit. So let's save that, and let's execute the menu file. Menu, there we go. Right, so we're back in the menu, display list of servers. That's reading a file. There we go. Now let's go number 2. Okay, it's reading. There you go. Gig. Okay. So here are the disk space info from the local host and Ubuntu and the BAT server, the non-existing servers. First of the local host is 13 gigs. Root folder of Ubuntu is 18 gig. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, now let's write a function to get a list of users from each of the server by reading a file from etc slash password is etc/passwd, and we pipe it to word count list and to get the number of users. So first we need to create a file called let's call it user info. I think okay, let's use the magic keyword again, bin bash. Right, we're writing an actual function. Let's call this get user info. The name is quite straightforward as you try to keep things simple for your naming convention, right? Let's call by using, let's start with the string intro of, let's call this script new line. So we are trying to write here are the list of users in each server. And let's run a for loop for server in. Now you're trying to read from the array each lines servers do. So for server in array of servers, we do put them to let's create a new variable called number of users. Use a backtick. Let's run a command. So let's initiate an SSH to test user from each of the server. Let's put our sign in there. So for server, so we got local hosts, we have the Ubuntu machine and the BAT server, the non-existing one. There's a server here. And so the command to check on the list of users is located in the file. So we need to read it, we need to cat, and the file name under the etc password. So this is where you will find a list of the users. I'll just show you here. Cat etc.password. So as you can see, you have here a bunch of users inside that password file, but you will only love to display it as a number. So what we do is we pipe it into word count as a list. So it will return as a number. So we got 58 users inside that etc.password file, right? That also goes the same if we would like to check the users from other machine. So let's say SSH test user, I have it here, so let's just repeat that line. Pass user from the Ubuntu machine, and I like to cat the etc password file and pipe it to word count and list. We have 51, so we can double check on that real quick on the Ubuntu. Let me log in again. Let's clear terminal. So the command is cat etc password, and you pipe it to word count as a list. So there you go, 51. We have here 51, so that's correct. Let's go back to our function file. Still unfinished command here after cat etc password file. So best practice, I always dumped the error to a def null, right? Pipe it to word count as L, and again dump it to def null for any error. Okay, now all we have to do is just echo the number of users variable into a string. So echo escape the special characters, tab number of users in server name, this one, the one that you run your for loop to, is variable number of users. So you got XX number of users. Go and you close the for loop and return the value of that for loop whenever the function of get user info is called, right? Save it. Let's get back here. So we have to add the function into our menu. Menu monitor. Okay, so the first step will be you instantiate the source, specify the source here, where we're gonna call the function. So the file name is user-info.inc, right? After that, you put that as your third option in the menu. Display number of user of each server. And in case of number 3 is being pressed by the user, we will call a function, which is this one, get user info, and once it's executed, it goes back to menu again. Awesome. Let's quit. Let's save and quit. All right, let's clear the terminal, and let's call the let's see it in action. So first, display list of servers, right? Let's display number of users from each server. That's number 3. There you go. Number of users in localhost is 58, in Ubuntu machine is 51, and the bat server is 0. There you go.